Welcome everybody to the second class in this expanded Yoga Sutra study series. We are now studying the first chapter, which is called Samādhi Pādaḥ. So the contents of the chapter are as follows. First, Patanjali describes the mind and its fluctuations. So last class, we've just taken a look at what the mind is. Patanjali doesn't describe it too much, but he says the mind is not the drashta, the seer. The seer is the real you. The mind is like a abharanam, something that you wear, like a cloth that you wear. And it's our job to keep or it's like a goggles that you put on. It's our job to keep the goggles nice, polished, defog, everything, so you can see clearly. And the mind serves the same purpose. It is for the drashta to interact with the world. And later Patanjali will say the purpose of the mind is twofold: to experience bhoga and apavarga. Bhoga apavargartham drishyam. Drishyam is that which is seen. The mind is also seen by the seer. So its purpose is twofold. Experience. Bhoga has a connotation of also pleasure. Depends on the context. Here it is the context of experience, which means it can give pleasure and also, unfortunately, pain. We don't want the pain, we want the pleasure. But once we know that we are not the mind and the world, then we start to disassociate and we feel the pain. So that is the idea. Now, bhoga and apavarga. So the other thing is apavarga, that is liberation. Apavarga means it's liberation. So the mind is also used to attain liberation from the cycle of births and deaths, which is called samsara. So this is the first portion that we are seeing today. We hope to also move into the second portion, the nature of yoga practice. Patanjali describes how do you make the vṛttis reduce. How do you tada yoga chitta vritti nirodha? We've seen it is the cessation of the vṛttis of the mind. How do you do that? It is through a process of the yoga practice. And what is it? It is abhyasa vairagyapyam tannirodha. Abhyasa and vairagya, powerful terms. Vairagya especially, it is the most important thing to attain samadhi. And we will see some stories from the Puranas and Itihasas. Okay, that said, we will just so we've seen that the mind, it's in this example. So I asked yesterday, so I think last time Mitra was way ahead, so she jumped several steps to an advanced explanation. But the simple explanation, the moon here is like the drashta, the seer, that is the consciousness. And what it sees, it cannot see itself, it sees its reflection in the mind. And the reflection, unfortunately, is colored by the mind, colored, quote unquote, which means if there are ripples in the mind, drashta, it's not able to swarupe avasthanam. Tada drashtuhu swarupe avasthanam. It's not able to see its true swarupam clearly. It sees something with all the ripples. So that is why you have to reduce the chitta vritti so you can have a clear view of yourself. So even in the theater, remember, we studied the mind with the example of the movie theater analogy. So the mind screen, the movie theater, when there's plain light shining, that is the drashta. It's plain light. This is the projector lamp is like the drashta. It just projects, it just sheds light. It's consciousness. It just sheds consciousness on everything. And for the consciousness to be experienced, you need a medium. That is called the mind, or the sukshma shariram, they call it. Without that, if it's on a dark object, it's not going to reveal anything. That's why not all beings are sentient. It needs suitable medium to receive this consciousness. And if there is images playing due to the screen, the film, then the drashta is not able to see the true reflection. So I hope all these are clear. Now we will go into the vṛttis. So the various vṛttis, Patanjali is now going to talk about So we left at Sutra 5. And so today I will go a little overboard because several people asked me for stories, and therefore I'm going to include some very popular stories, and feel free to leave if you're not able to stay back, and you can see the recordings. So vrittaya panchatayah klishta aklishtaha, says Patanjali says some vṛttis are klishta, producing harm, and the others are aklishta. It can be the same vritti kind of vritti can also produce harm. Sometimes it can produce good. So, and the vṛttis, mental modifications, they leave impressions. These are the karmic imprints, and these are called samskaras. This is loosely called karma, latent impressions, memory traces, and these get activated like a seed which is dormant when the conditions are right. Patanjali is going to say that later. So only those vṛttis fructify when the time and place are right. Okay, it's very mysterious. In the Bhagavad Gītā, Bhagavan Krishna says, Karmanaiva hi bodhavyam hi vikarmanaha akarmanascha bodhavyam gahana karmano gatihi. Gahana means very deep. The way in which karma works is very deep. It's not linear. It's very mysterious and deep. So these latent samskaras, when their conditions are like a sprout, a seed becoming a sprout, it will activate and manifest. Then it becomes a vasana. It is the smell of the latent impressions. When it's activated, it produces a smell. It's like the smell of the earth, like that. And then it creates more vṛttis in the mind. That is the first thing for us to produce action. This is how the entire thing works. So far, is it everything clear? Yeah? Okay. Now, Patanjali is going to talk about the 5 types of vṛttis. Patanjali says all the vṛttis, the mental modifications that you experience, they fall into one of these 5 categories. And these 5 categories are Pramāṇa, Viparyaya, Vikalpa, nidrā, smṛtayah. They are Pramāṇa. Pramāṇa means the right knowledge. Viparyaya means misconception. Vikalpa means verbal delusion. Nidrā means sleep. So look at the interesting thing. Sleep is also a vṛtti according to Patanjali. Patanjali is not talking here, when he says nidrā, he is talking about sushupti or deep sleep. He is not talking about the dream, swapna. Okay? And smṛtayah, memory. This is also a vṛtti. When you're getting things from the memory, that's a vṛtti. When you're seeing from outside, that's also a vṛtti. Okay? Now, the question you will all have automatically is why Patanjali is not talking about swapna avastha, that is the dreams. So for Patanjali here is not making a distinction between memory and dreams. So in Vedanta, they talk about the 4 states of consciousness, avasthas, or the 3 states, and that which illumines the 3 states. So Jagrata avastha, waking state, swapna avastha, dream state, and sushupti, which is deep sleep. And the one that illuminates all 3, the 4th, it is just called the chaturtaha, turiya, or the chaturtaha. It's just the 4th. It is the pure consciousness that is apart from all these states. Dreamless sleep is also counted as a fluctuation of the mind. This might be very surprising to all of you. It is indeed so. And why is it indeed so? Why are not waking state and dream state being counted? Because and also volition, all these things, why are not mentioned? So Patanjali, in actually Vyāsa and Vachaspati Mishra clarify, waking state is mainly, it includes Pramāṇa, because we are seeing things. And it also includes Vikalpa, because we also daydream when we are seeing things. And we'll come to the definitions of all these things. And dream state is primarily one of Viparyaya. though Vikalpa, recollection, and Pramāṇa might also form a part of it. So we'll come to all these definitions. It will become very clear. But dream is essentially memory. So the 5 vṛttis, based on the different types of cognitions, all the vṛttis you see fall in this category. Pramāṇa, correct cognition. This is what you see. Viparyaya means you see something, but you think it's something else. There I will give a lot of examples. The Viparyaya and Vikalpa, to distinguish, it can be a little confusing. So I'll give some examples. We'll also have a small quiz. Vikalpa means the cognition of a thing which does not exist. It is our mental made-up thing, like a horns of a rabbit. We've never seen that in reality. We've not heard about it. This is the very common example quoted in Vedanta. They talk about this as the Vikalpa, or imagination, or a fancy. Then nidrā. Nidrā is dreamless sleep or no cognition. Smṛti, memory, or the awareness of previous cognitions. Every single thought you ever had falls into these buckets. Dreaming, as I said, is primarily smṛti. So far, everything clear? Okay. So this is how it is thought of. The vṛttis, the 5 vṛttis, some of them, it's not like these 3 are good aklishta vṛtti, and these 2 are klishta vṛtti. No, every vṛtti can cause klishta, pain, or aklishta. So the way they look at it as this vehicle, the vehicle is the type of thought. It's the vehicle. The quality determines the destination. So the klishta vṛttis, the destinations, agama, it's lower things. The aklishta vṛtti, it uplifts you towards liberation. Okay, Pramāṇa, Viparyaya, Vikalpa, nidrā, smṛtayah. These are the 5. The vehicle, this is the type of thought. It can be any one of these, and the destination is pain or good. Okay. So far, and for example, one of the things, right knowledge. Klishta, it can, if you have the right knowledge and you find some loopholes on how to cheat on taxes, it is correct knowledge, but it leads to bondage. Knowing the nature of the self, it leads to liberation. So you see, every one of these things will have a good, or it can have a bad. Am I recording this thing? Yeah, okay, I am recording. Okay. Now let's define Pramāṇa. Pratyakshanumānāgama pramāṇāni. So Pramāṇani means that these are the 3 Pramāṇas. What are the 3? Pratyaksha, Anumana, Agama, Pramāṇani. Pratyaksha means direct. Prati, Akshu means eyes. So the goddess is called Meenakshi because she has eyes like a fish. So Meenakshi, like this. Pratyaksha means this direct. Prati means in front. Pratyaksha means direct perception. Anumana means inference. Agama means verbal testimony. Agama Shastra means that which is said by some very notable person. Okay. Now let's look at each of this. There is 2 types. Pratyaksha also, there are 2 types. There is ordinary pratyaksha and yogic pratyaksha. Ordinary pratyaksha uses the physical senses, the eyes, ears, limited to physical objects. Whereas the yogic pratyaksha uses the subtle mind directly to cognize somebody else's thoughts, all this in the subtle realm. So these yogis can perceive subtle entities, tanmatras, ego, purusha. This is the gold standard of truth in yoga. Anumana is inference. The mechanism, the classic example given in Vedanta, where there is smoke, there's also a fire. So when you see a smoke, you don't see the fire directly. You know, okay, so there is a fire somewhere. So it operates on objects that cannot be seen directly, but are inferred through a known relationship. Then comes agama. Agama is verbal testimony. And the mechanism is the person who is telling this should be a trustworthy person. Apta, they call it, who has seen the truth directly and communicates it to you. Your mind absorbs their knowledge through what they're saying. So the condition is source must be a very credible source. Vyasa states that the ultimate agama is the Vedas, because the source is what? Ishvara. Ishvara has no defects. So, and that's how, in fact, Ishvara is going to be defined. No kleshas. Klesha, karmasha, ella. Aparamrishtaha is beyond all this. That is Ishvara. Okay. So, we've seen Pramāṇa, and we've seen the different types of Pramāṇas. Now, let's go into Viparyaya. As I said, the Viparyaya and Vikalpa, it's slightly confusing. So, we'll define Viparyaya first. Viparyayo mitya jnana matadrupamatistam. Viparyaya mitya jnanam atadrupa pratishtam. So Viparyaya, or illusion, is, or misconception, is false knowledge that is formed in the mind of a thing as other than what it really is. So Viparyaya, mithya means false. So this is a term used so much in Vedanta. So Satyam and Mithya, these are the two terms. They are opposites. Satyam means that which is true, real, permanent. Mithya means it's like illusion. It looks like this one day, it changes. That's caused by this principle called Maya. And Mithya so means false knowledge. There is something. So the classic example given in Vedanta of Mithya is dream. You are experiencing dream. You can't deny that. But is it real? No. Then another classic example that is used is in Vedanta. The classic example is a rope and a snake. So in a dim light, you see, so this rope looks like a snake, right? You cannot deny that. It does. You thought it was a snake. It looks like a snake, but it is not a snake. It's a rope. So there is some basis for that. So Viparyaya, but it's a misconception. Okay. So Viparya Mithya Jnanam Atadrupa Pratishtam means reality. Atadrupa means, but it's not in the form. Not Atadrupa. It is not. Tadrupa means that rupa. Atadrupa means not in the form of reality. Tad rupa, not that form of reality. You look at it as something else. You look at the rope as a snake. That's what it means. Okay. The other example, Vyāsa gives this example, two moon. A person with defective vision looks at the moon and sees two moons. But you can't deny that. There are two, the person is seeing two moons, but there is only one moon. And the class rope snake example. So far, everything clear. Now comes to the other one. The Vikalpa Viparyaya is usually some confusion. Shabda jnananupati vastu shunyo vikalpaha. Shabda jnana anupati vastu shunyo vikalpaha. The vritti called Vikalpa is based on an image. Vastu shunya means there is zero, no object like that at all. It's totally conjured up by the words of a thing that does not exist in reality. It is a fictitious perception. It is fiction. It is not even, you don't even have a basis for that. You just think, the classic example in Vedanta is a rabbit with horns. You've seen a cow with horns. You've seen a rabbit. Now you put the two together. You don't actually you've never even seen something which looks like that. But then you put the two together and you just, okay, the horns of a rabbit, and you conjure up an image. So Shabda, sound, jnana, knowledge, anupati, that which follows the knowledge of some words juxtaposed together. But Vastu Shunya, it's devoid, there's no such object. That is Vikalpa, or fictitious perception. Vyāsa makes a important distinction. Viparyaya, or false cognition, the previous one that we saw, where you thought the rope was a snake, it pretty much it has no usefulness because you're seeing something wrong. Yes or no? Will you agree with me? Viparyaya, previous one, which is misconception. Misconception, is there any use with misconception? No, it is almost always useless. But Vikalpa, or vague notion, it always serves a purpose, because certain concepts are easy to illustrate using Vikalpa. And we'll see some of that. Like, for example, when things are introduced, people say the consciousness of the Purusha. This is a wrong statement, but to teach somebody who has no idea of what the Purusha is, you don't just say Purusha is illuminating everything. The person will say, oh, what do you mean by that? I'm totally confused. So you say the consciousness of the Purusha is illuminating. But this Purusha, that is the real you, this has no properties. Purusha is in the nature of Sat Chit Anandam. You see the difference? It has no properties. It is, so you say the light of light. You say, call the light by Jyoti, let's say. And you say the light of Jyoti. No, Jyoti is light. So it is like that. Viparyaya has no use, but Vikalpas used to illustrate some concepts. So, yogis, when their mind becomes quiet, even the Vikalpa vṛttis, they slowly start discarding. That is, the first thing is, okay, in order for me to focus my mind, I think of my Ishta Devata, my deity of choice, Rama or Durga, whatever. So I imagine goddess in this form with so many hands, sitting on a line, all that to quieten my mind, because it's a powerful image, somebody who will protect me. And then slowly you start shedding all that when the mind attains certain level of quietude. Okay. So in fact, Patanjali is going to talk about it in the 48th Sutta. Ruthambarava tatra prajna, the cognitions of things that have no existence beyond the word. So it is antagonistic to Vikalpa. Rutambara means filled with truth. This prajna, this wisdom is filled with truth. That's in the highest levels of Samadhi. That's what you will see. All these things you start shedding. Okay. So far, is everything understood? Now, the other examples, head of Rahu. So you know the famous in the Puranas, there is Rahu and Ketu. So this is the two nodes. I don't know if I have, I taught this in Dakshinamurti Stotram. Let me see if I can get for those who are not familiar with this. So there's Rahu Krastu Divakarendu Sadrishaha Maya Samachadanat Sanmatra Karanopasamharanato Yobhut Sushupta Puman. So the moon's orbit, so there are two nodes opposite to each other, where the moon intersects the plane on which the earth rotates. So those are the Rahu and the Ketu. Those are the two things. And mythologically, what it was that when the ocean, Kshirsagaram, the ocean of milk, was being churned to get the nectar, they got the nectar, and then Vishnu comes as Mohini, the beautiful, the Maya seductress, a beautiful lady. She comes and she tells the Asuras, okay, Asuras, why don't you go clean up, take a shower and come. I'll start giving the Devas the nectar, and then I'll give it to you. So the Asuras got tricked, but one Asura, that Asura, he disguised himself as a deva, and he stood in line to get the nectar. And the sun and the moon, they spotted it, and they told it to Mohini. And then Mohini takes the form of Vishnu, and then chops the head off before the liquid could go in the it actually entered the mouth, but then Vishnu chops it off so it doesn't go past. So that is Rahu is the head, Ketu is the body. And they apparently the entire thing, because sun and the moon, they betray, or they told about this. So Rahu is always angry with the sun and the moon. So he swallows, that is all the eclipse. So when they swallows the sun, it's not forever, because the sun comes out through the head. So that is the story of Rahu. So when you say head of Rahu, Rahu is just the head itself. There's no, but it is to illustrate, oh, Rahu is floating around means, will you understand? No. Head of Rahu is floating around means you will understand. So Vikalpa has that use. Consciousness of Purusha, we've seen. Okay. Now, small quiz question. So Viparyaya is misconception. Vikalpa is fictional imagination. I've already said horns of a rabbit. Which one is this? Anybody wants to say?
Vikalpa.
Horns of a rabbit is Vikalpa. It's totally fictional. Then another situation. You send a text message to your friend. And this friend, you don't know that friend is sleeping. And the friend is not replying. Or the friend is in the aircraft and the airplane mode. No reply. They don't reply for a while. And you think, oh, my friend is angry with me. So which one is it? Viparyaya or Vikalpa?
Viparyaya.
It is Viparyaya, correct, because it is misconception. Then you use the word time flies. Which one is this? Viparyaya or Vikalpa?
Vikalpa.
It is Vikalpa. Very good, because it is totally fictional. Time doesn't fly. It has no wings. It's just it's used to illustrate. That's why Vyāsa says Vikalpa has uses. Viparyaya is always useless. Okay. All right. So now we'll come to the next vṛtti. Ahabhava pratyaya lambana vṛttir nidrā. Okay, this is it's a weighted sutra, so I will explain. So at the outset, when you are defining science, all these seem so simple. Why is Patanjali defining sleep? But there is so much packed into this. We take it for granted. So pay attention, you'll know. Dreamless sleep, this is nidrā, refers to sushupti actually here. It is not swapna, it's not dreams, it is dreamless sleep. It is the mind state in which the mind uses the absence of thoughts as support. I will just show the example first so you understand, and then I'll go through this. Okay. Let us say, take the same movie theater example. I told you, right? Blank screen. When just the light is being reflected off that is state. That is how it is in the deep sleep. The mind does have an object of focus, and this object of focus is the screen on which the Purusha is reflecting. Because there is no vṛtti, you don't recollect anything. There are no modifications. So it's just plain sleep. How do you know? So this is a very important thing even Shankaracharya uses in, let me find that example. In fact, he uses this to counter other forms of Buddhism, which were very similar to Vedanta. In fact, Nagarjuna was one of the most brilliant Sanskrit scholars. And the way Shankaracharya counters his idea is deep sleep. They say, oh, deep sleep is shunya. There's nothing in deep sleep. And therefore, that is the true state where there's no subject-object difference, and that is the real you, which is shunya. And Shankaracharya says, no, you're wrong. In deep sleep, actually, you are seeing the plain screen. That's the drashta, or the atma, or the purusha is seeing the plain screen, because when you wake up from the sleep, you say, I slept well. Okay, the mind takes the form of the blank screen, and when we wake up, there's no memory of external objects, no vṛttis, the strong memory of darkness. So if it's uninterrupted, you say, I slept well, but I know I slept. If the mind switches off during that time, or the purusha goes off, in fact, in the 4th chapter, Patanjali is going to explain by way of dismissing other theories. All these are primarily Nastika darshanas, by way of dismissing the Nastika darshanas, which don't have origin in the Vedas, but they are remarkably close to Sankhya or yoga. And Patanjali dismisses all of them using these logic. He says, some of them say, oh, there is nothing like a continuous Purusha. Purusha comes, goes. No, if Purusha goes, then all the memory is also gone. So the memory of external objects, strong, all the continuity, it is the medium which maintains the continuity. Everything, it's because of the Purusha. If Purusha is gone, there's nothing like non-volatile memory. So don't say that, oh, the mind is like a non-volatile memory. It can stay even when I plug the electricity off, then when I plug it back in, it comes. No, it doesn't work that way. So that's why analogies break down at some point. Don't take it too seriously, okay? All right. So abhava means lack of. Pratyaya, the impressions of the screen of the mind. Alambana, so this is an important term, because he's using this term because even in deep sleep, the mind always, the drashta is always seeing something. What it is seeing, it's seeing the blank screen of the mind. That is the support or object of focus. So the mind is now focusing on the darkness. Okay, so drashta sees the darkness. Mind's object of focus is the darkness. The mind has not dissolved, because if there is nothing in there, the mind, it means the mind has completely dissolved. Okay, so you're just staring at the wall. It's like that. If the mind lets go of all the objects, it dissolves. This is the end goal of yoga, nirodha and kaivalyam. So there is the drashta understands its true nature. There is no need for the mind. So abhava pratyaya alambana, support, vṛtti, this modification of the mind. In reality, there is no modification. The modification is constancy. That is called nidrā. So the movie theater screen is blank. And from the Shastras, we know that sleep is a tamas attribute. So the 3 gunas, sattva, rajas, tamas, sleep is tamas. You need tamas to sleep. To stop the mental modifications due to sleep, the first thing that is to be practiced is calmness of the body. But in yogic terms, when Swami Hariharananda says, the sleep, which is the reaction for making up of the loss due to bodily waste, becomes unnecessary. When the body becomes calm, one-pointedness and smṛti sadhana, that is the cultivation of this yogic techniques, are necessary, are enough for resting the brain. When the body remains calm, the mind is focused, you need less sleep. So that is something that Swami Hariharananda says. Okay.
Anna, I have a question.
Yeah.
Is that why I often hear that the technique of yoga nidra is far more
Yes.
effective? Probably that is probably the reason.
Yes. In fact, so tomorrow I'm starting a 1-week meditation retreat, silent retreat. And usually what happens in this is there are many people who only sleep for 3 hours because they're meditating during the day. So the mind needs less rest. So it is a very common practice. And that's what Swami Harihara and Aranya also states. These vṛttis and all these, they tire the mind. So the mind gets rest in this one pointed state. So vṛtti, why is sleep a vṛtti? Because isn't sleep just the mind turning off? No, sleep must be a vṛtti because we retain a memory of it when waking. When you wake up, you say, I slept well, I slept poorly, all that. Okay, this is a very important distinction. It's a mental movement. And we saw, why is it alambana? Because if the mind lets go of if the drashta does not see anything, right, it means the mind doesn't exist. It's gone. So the drashta is actually seeing the blank screen of the mind. This is what is meant by mind's object of focus. In fact, it's the drashta. Yes, Anjana.
So when Patanjali is saying chitta vritti nirodha,
Yeah,
and when sleep is also one of the vrittis.
yeah. Okay, I'm coming to that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, all right. Now, you may ask the question, great, sleep is chitta vritti nirodha. So I'm going to sleep 24 hours a day. I'll pop sleeping pills and sleep 24 hours a day and attain chitta vritti nirodha. And by sleeping, I will go to kaivalya. I will attain kaivalya. No, this is the difference. Difference between sushupti, deep sleep, and higher state of samadhi, nirbija samadhi, one closest to tasyapi nirode sarpa nirodan nirbija samadhi. Last sutra of the first chapter, Samādhi Pādaḥ, is that higher state. What's the difference? Sushupti, deep sleep, nirbija samadhi. The anchor for the mind in sushupti is darkness. In nirbija samadhi, there's no anchor. That's just before you attain kaivalyam. The entity that pervades the mind. Okay, I should have put this here and this here. The entity that pervades the mind in deep sleep is ignorance. And the entity that pervades the mind in sushupti, in nirbija samadhi, is pure consciousness. So in sushupti, it is ignorance. In nirbija samadhi, it's pure consciousness. So that is how it is. In fact, this is how consciousness and maya. Okay, one moment. Consciousness and maya. Consciousness and maya, they both are bliss. That's why they say ignorance is bliss for a term. So deep sleep is bliss. And what's happening here is that in deep sleep, the bliss comes from ignorance, whereas in samadhi, deep states, when you know consciousness, it comes from light. And the example, how each feels, deep sleep, it feels like a person is under a heavy blanket. Nirbija samadhi, it feels like a person is floating in free space. So those are the two differences. Okay. So Sumitra, your face disappeared. Okay. Anubhuta vishaya asampramosha smrtihi. So it's as a sutra, anubhuta vishaya sampramosha smrtihi. It's when we chant the sutra, it's chanted as anubhuta vishaya sampramosha smrtihi. It is not sampramosha smrtihi, it is asampramosha smrtihi. Pramosha means disappear. Asampramosha means not fully disappear. Smrti is the mental modification caused by the reproduction of a previous impression of an object that has not disappeared. Okay, the important thing is you're not adding anything from other sources. Smrti is pure recollection without the input. Most of the times, smrti is mixed with input things. You take things from the memory, you see, and then you come up with this. So pure smrti recollection is a mental modification of caused by the reproduction of a previous impression of the object. You just play back. Okay. Anubhuta means from experience. Anubhuta Vishaya means content from the experience. You already experienced that before. And asampramosha means it has not fully disappeared. Certain vṛttis, they become weak and they have gone. So it is possible you can clean out the vṛttis, but this is not gone. It still has some impressions. Dreams are also a form of memory. Dreams, the experience is so real that you think it is true. In waking memory, you say, I remember that object. So that's a two difference. Okay, so with this, with the 11th sutra, the mind and the fluctuations have been covered. Now Patanjali goes into the nature of the yoga practice and an introduction to the two types of samadhis Patanjali is going to talk about here. Yes. Shakti? You had a question? Okay. Then Abhyasa vairagyapyam tannirodha. At the outset, it might look like this is a boring sutra. Oh, we know that. Of course, without practice, you can't get anything. By practice and detachment, these vṛttis can be stopped. Tan nirodha. The tan means that those vṛttis, they can be nirodha means they can be wiped out or stopped by abhyasa, which is practice, and vairagya. Raga means craving. Viraga means lack of craving. Vairagya means that state of lack of craving for objects, which is detachment. Okay, that's the etymology of the word. So in fact, in the Bhagavad Gītā, in the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gītā, Arjuna asks the question, Yetan me samshayam Krishna chetumarhasya sheshatah. Okay, so Shakti, I'll answer that question later. So hold on to that, sir. Okay. So in the Bhagavad Gītā, so Krishna in the 6th chapter tells Arjuna all about dhyana, meditation. And Arjuna says, all these, you're talking about stopping the vṛttis using meditation. It seems impossible to achieve. He says the mind, to control the mind is even more difficult than stopping the wind. Can you stop the wind? No, it is that difficult. And Bhagavan agrees. Asamshayam mahabaho manodurnigraham chalam abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena cha gruhyate. Same thing, abhyasa, vairagya. Abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena cha gruhyate. Vairagya means pushing back from worldly distractions. Abhyasa means practicing to go inward. So abhyasa is effort, vairagya is detracting from something. That classic example that is used, I think this is from Vachaspati Mishra. You have a river and the river wants to flow towards the ocean. That's liberation. Now, you can, and there are two paths. So the river, there's also a swamp. The river can enter a swamp or the ocean. Vairagya is building a dam. So the water doesn't enter the swamp. And it's building a canal, so all the water enters the ocean. So this is, abhyasa is digging the canal for the water. It's doing something actively. Vairagya is building a dam to prevent the water from flowing into the swamp. Okay. Now, Patanjali describes what abhyasa is. Tatra sthitau
Yatno.
Can you mute, Shakti? Tatra sthitau yatnopyasaha. Okay, so this is the definition for abhyasa. Okay, at the outset, it looks like a okay sutra. I mean, I'm not having any aha moments from this sutra. Tatra means that state. Sthiti or tatra sthiti, that state of sthiti means steadiness. Yatna means effort. That effort which results in steadiness of the mind and the body is called abhyasa. Tatra sthiti, that state of steadiness which results from this practice, that yatna, that effort is called abhyasa. So even that's why when Pattabhi, when somebody asked him, how do you know a pose is correct? Because not everybody can enter a pose, do the final picture perfect pose of asana, right? Pattabhi looked and said, when the mind becomes quiet, then that pose is perfect. And for the mind to become quiet, your breathing has to be steady. That's prerequisite. So that is that effort which results in steadiness of the mind is called abhyasa. Now, the classic example is the story of Dhruva. Dhruva represents the abhyasi, the practitioner, and he later becomes the pole star. Everything, pole star is always there, same. It represents sthitihi, the state that does not wobble. The entire system seems to be going around, all the planets, everything, whole star is fixed. So the rigorous penance he performed to get there, ignoring fear, hunger, everything, that is the effort, yatna. Okay, so the story of Dhruva. So I'll quickly tell the story. So there was a king by the name Uttanapada. Uttanapada means that one whose feet is above. It's not like Dushyant Sridhar joked once. He's a very well-known Upanyasaka. He talks about all these, the Bhagavatam and everything. So the story comes in Bhagavata Mahapuranam. He says maybe he had hands down and feet up. No, Uttanapada means one whose feet is up. It just means one, like we say, place somebody on a pedestal, right? So he's a noble person. That's what the name is. So Uttanapada had two wives. One, the younger wife was Suruchi, and the older wife was Suniti. So Suruchi means one with good taste. So obviously, just like her name, she was like fancy, wearing all nice clothes. So king was attracted. Suniti, on the other hand, was a noble woman, pure, wonderful intellect. Niti means policy. Suniti means one of right policy, right conduct. So that is Suniti. Suniti had a son, Prince Dhruva, son of Suniti. This 5-year-old child, little child, this child saw father and wanted to climb and sit on the father's lap, the king's lap. Then the child went and sat on the father's lap. Then Suruchi dragged him away. And not only that, in a fit of jealousy, she pulled him away and she says, only my son can sit on the king's lap. And if you don't have the rights to sit, and if you want to sit on the king's lap, you look at the cruel word she's using. You need to die and be born in my womb to be able to sit there. Such cruel things to a 5-year-old, she said. And the worst of it is this king is just sitting there because he is so fond of his younger wife and he doesn't say anything. The child is so hurt. So the child runs to his mother, crying. And then Suniti said, let us not speak ill of the king or Suruchi. She said, look, You wanted to sit on your father's lap, but I will give you a proposal. You can sit on the lap of the one one who created the universe if you pray to that person. That is Bhagavan Vishnu. Pray and you will attain him, and your father's lap is nothing compared to that glory. You will have the greatest joy. So seek the shelter of the Padmapatra, the one whose um, eyes are like the petals of a lotus leaf. Only that person can give you the steadiness. You will always feel like you're sitting in his lap. Dhruva wiped his tears. The boy who was seeking his father's lap now decided he's going to seek the lap of the universe, Bhagavan. So he left the palace and he walked into this forest called Madhuvana. Madhu literally means enchanting. So this forest is a dangerous forest because there are all kinds of shady things there. It looks very enchanting, but it is full of these dangerous things. Then he goes wandering and is very determined. Seeing this determination, Rishi Narada comes, because whenever there is Bhagavan Vishnu associated with anything, he feels the energy and he comes. He wanted to see, is this boy really determined? So he says, boy, this is a dangerous forest. You just go and play in your palace. This is not all for you. You just go. Don't worry. Things will become better. And Dhruva says, no. He was very determined. So Narada, seeing his determination, he says, this boy has the adhikara, the qualification. So he initiates him, tells him how you can attain Bhagavan Vishnu. And he initiates him into the special 12-syllable mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And then Dhruva, with this as the Bija mantra, he starts his penance. And how does it go about? So this is Dhruva's practice. So this represents the yatna, the effort that happens. So previously, he was so grief-stricken. Now he begins, the yatna purges him of all the grief. So how strong was his practice? The first month he ate only fruits and berries every 3 days. Then he would eat grass and leaves every 6 days. Then he only drank water every 9 days. Like this he did. He inhaled air every 12 days. Then he stopped his breath. When he stopped his breath, the entire cosmos started suffocating. And all the time he had this picture of Vishnu in his chest. That was what he was focusing on. He was uttering Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And one day, suddenly, this image that was in his chest, as he was imagining, that disappeared. He was surprised, and then he opens his eyes. In front of him, Bhagavan is sitting, and with his conch, conch, he touches the cheek of Dhruva, and then Dhruva, at the time, immediately he attains divine knowledge. And Bhagavan tells him, you sought a place that cannot be taken away. You wanted permanence. I give you the position of Dhruvaloka, the pole star, where all the other stars and planets will go around, and you shall remain fixed in the center. So in this entire story, Uttanapada, the father, represents the ordinary mind, which is pulled by attachment. So his attachment for Suniti makes him forget his own child. And attachment for Suruchi makes him forget his own child. Suruchi, the stepmother, represents the world, the harsh things that happen in the world. And sometimes those can push us out of the comfort zone. And Suniti represents Viveka, discrimination. So, and Dhruva represents the Abhyasi, the practitioner. The pole star represents the sthiti of steadiness. So that is the story of Dhruva. Okay, then comes Vairagya. So when the practice is done for a long period, Satu Dhirga Kala Nairantarya Satkara Sevito Drudabunihi. Satu, that too, Dirgha kala, for a long period of time, when the practice is done, nairantarya, uninterrupted, constantly. Satkaraha means with reverence. Satkara, with reverence. Asevitaha, with the act of seva, which means very like diligent. When it's done in such a diligent manner, it becomes dridabhumihi, it becomes firmly grounded. Okay. Do you want one more story or should I skip?
One more story.
Okay, one more story. So this is a very famous story from Ramayana. This represents the story of Shabari. So Shabari was born in a hunter gatherer type tribe. And from a young age, she felt there are some people, they are born in families that are, you can say tamasic. They eat a lot of meat, they're like violent, use bad language. But this child may not want to be associated with that. The child would not want to lead a harsh life. So she was like that. From the young age, she felt a deep aversion to the violence of hunting and she wanted a different path. Eventually, she found her way to the ashrama of a great sage called Matanga. And recognizing her pure art, the sage took her into the ashram as his disciple. Even though she was considered low by the rigid norms of the society at that time, he accepted her and she served her guru with absolute dedication, Matanga. And Matanga became old, and one day he was at his deathbed. Shabari wept and said, "Please take me with you. Without your guidance, I'm lost." And he said, "No, no, 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 no. You are destined for a special path. You know who is going to come and give you liberation? It is the Lord of the universe himself, Bhagavan Narayana as Rama." So Rama and his brother, who is actually the incarnation of Adisesha, this celestial snake on which Bhagavan Vishnu rests, they will come and Rama will give you moksha. So wait for that. I giving moksha is nothing compared to Bhagavan himself taking. I cannot give you moksha, number one, but I taking me with you is not going to be good for you. So your liberation will come through the darshana of Rama. So Shabari, what does she do? She begins the practice. Every day, anticipating Rama's arrival, she will sweep the path coming to the ashram, clear it of leaves, make it clean like a red carpet. Even though she didn't have a red carpet, keep it very clean. She didn't know when Rama would come. It could be tomorrow, it could be years later. She was prepared. So that is her practice. Every day, Dirgha Kala, she was doing this for decades. Her hair turned white. She developed a hunched back and her eyesight dimmed, but she never lost hope. And uninterrupted, she did this every day. She would sweep, then she would pluck flowers to decorate the altar. She would gather wild berries. Rama would be hungry. I will give wild berries. And she would look down the empty path until sunset. And okay, Rama did not come today, he'll come tomorrow. So that's how she would be. And decades later, one evening, as the sun was setting, there are two people walking in that path. Immediately she knew, even her eyesight was so poor, she knew it was Rama and Lakshmana. So when she saw the two princes, she knew and she was overwhelmed with ecstasy. So she runs towards Rama. She was so confused too. And she greets him, takes them to her small hut. And there, with intense love, she washes Rama's feet. And then, okay, I have some berries, but I want to give you the tastiest berries. So she's completely lost, confused. And what she does is, I want to make sure the berry is sweet before I give it to you. So she bites the berry and then she puts it in a separate container, knowing if it's not sweet, she'll keep it in a different container. And this is like abacharam. It's just something so bad to do to such a noble being. But she didn't know that she was doing it completely out of love and bhakti for Rama. Rama happily takes it. Lakshmana was wondering what is happening here, and Rama takes it and eats it. And at the end, she says, she doesn't even need to say anything. And then Rama says, I know you want moksha. I give you permission to leave the body now. And she leaves the body to get moksha. So that is the story of Shabari, the famous story that comes in Bhagavata, in Ramayana. Okay. All right. With that, I wanted to cover until the 15th sutra. Drishtanushravika Vishaya Vitrishnasya Vashikara Sangya Vairakyam. Drishta Vishaya means seen objects, like objects of this earth, riches, everything. Anushravika Vishaya means heard or revealed objects, heaven, celestial, all these things which people have only heard about, they have not experienced this. They have not even seen this. Vashikara Samya means mastery over the mind. Samya here refers to the mind. That Vairagyam is the mastery over the mind of one who has lost thirst. With Trishna. Trishna means thirst. With Trishna, one who has lost thirst in both perceived and revealed objects. That is Vairagyam. Detachment. Vairagyam means detachment. The classic story here is Nachiketa. Can I tell one short story? Is it okay? A few minutes? Everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Nachiketa. Story of Nachiketa. This is the very famous Upanishad called Kathopanishad. So Nachiketa's father is performing a Vajapayee Yajna, a big yajna. Those days it was very famous, and there's also this name called Vajapayee, right? There was a Prime Minister of India with that name. Vajapayee is one who's that's how the name comes. Those who've done the Vajapayee Yajna have the name Vajapayee. So this attains the heavens. But what was the father doing? He was giving old cows. So in the Vajapayee Yajna, you donate everything that you have, so you gain the heavens. And here he was donating all these things which are not very useful. So the little child, here's a little child comes and asks, Dad, Father, why are you donating all these things which are of no use to anybody? Old cows which won't even give milk. I am your most precious possession, so donate me. And then he keeps saying this. The third time he says, the father, he was worried for his father because he thought the yajna that he was doing would not give him the benefits. So the child was seriously concerned. Then the father gets irritated. I will, do something like, to hell with you, like that people say, right? Because I will give you to death. To death I will give you. Then the child was a little upset, but it took it very seriously. Okay, I'll seek who this death is. And then the child started going towards the forest. He goes, and somehow he goes to Yamaloka, and he waits for 3 days and 3 nights. Yama doesn't come. This is a Brahmana boy. It is a great sin to keep a guest waiting for that long, especially a Brahmana boy and a knowledgeable, pure person. And what happens? Yama finally comes. At the time, a Ashariri voice, which is just from the heavens, it comes. Yama, you've done a big injustice by letting a very noble guest unattended for 3 days and 3 nights. You have to make up for it. Yama begs for forgiveness and says, I will give you 3 boons because you waited for 3 days. So first he teaches him about the fire sacrifice. Then Nachiketa says, let my father not be angry anymore. Let him be well and let him get what he wants. All that. And then for the last boon, he says, what happens after death? And Yama says, okay, Nachiketa, you are asking me for something that even the wisest people find very difficult to attain. And because Yama wasn't sure if Nachiketa is ready to receive the knowledge, so he says, I will give you, ask for sons and grandsons. I will give you for life for 100 years. I'll give you herds of cattle, elephants, gold, horses. I will give you everything, the vast abode of earth. So this is the drishta vishaya. All that can be seen, I will give you. Then he says, I will give you celestial things. Anushravika vishaya. I will give you this beautiful women with chariots, musical instruments, not attained by men. You will be enjoying all these things in the universe. Nachiketa says, no, I don't want any of these things. All these things, they come and go. So this is a very famous verse from Nachiketa. Na vittena tarpaniyo manushyaha lapsyamahe vittam adrakshma chetva jivishyamo yavadishishyase svam varatastu me varaniya saeva. So what he's saying is, now vittena tarpaniyo manushyaha, by wealth, manushas, people are not satisfied. The wealth, they want more and more. Wealth cannot satisfy a person. In fact, it'll make one more. It is like pouring gasoline over fire. It will only make them more greedy. Lapsyamahe vittam adrakshma chetva. I've seen you, the Lord Dharmaraja, I have no worries, because I know when you're going to send me, I know you will give me wealth. So how smart the boy is. He's already planned. He knows when he's going to leave, they won't send you. Yama is not going to send him empty-handed. So how smart. He says, I know you will give me wealth. I'm not going to waste my third bone on this. And then he says, Jivishyamo yavadishishyasi tvam. Jivishyamaha means I will live, we will live. Yavad ishishyasi, as long as you desire. If you decide my time is up, you will take it away. So as long as you are there, I cannot have permanence. And then varatastu me varaniya saeva. I want that boon alone. Tell me what happens after death. And then Yama is convinced, and then he tells about the greatest, the secret of the self, Atma, that he tells. So Nachiketa here refers to it, Vairagya. It's a classic embodiment of Vairagya. All the lower things he has let go for the highest goal of Vairagya. So with this, we will stop the recording.